On the next Prairie Sportsman, witness the challenge of the Arrowhead Ultra 135.
Thank you again for getting into this horse crap.
Also, explore Project Get Outdoors, dedicated to bringing youth into the great outdoors.
Welcome to Prairie Sportsman. I'm Brett Amundsen. We got a great show for you this week, and it starts right now.
Funding for Prairie Sportsman is provided by the Minnesota Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, as recommended by the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources. Mark and Margaret Yackel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farm, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota, on the web at shalomhillfarm.org. And by West Central Initiative and Western Minnesota Prairie Waters. And the members of Pioneer PBS.
The Northwoods of Minnesota. It's rich with outdoor opportunities from hunting and fishing to trapping and snowmobiling, but that's not all. Each year, during the coldest part of the winter, a select group of hardy individuals trek to the coldest place in the lower 48 states to take part in one of the toughest races in the world.
We're up in International Falls for the Arrowhead Ultra 135. Competitors bike, run, or cross-country ski 135 miles on the Arrowhead Trail down to Fortune Bay Casino and Tower.
So the start is 7 a.m. Monday morning at Cary Park Arena. We have fireworks at the start, which is really a neat way to start a race. So the bikers start at 7. If we have a skier, she starts at 7:02, and 7:04 the foot people take off, and they have 60 hours to finish. So racers have to have mandatory survival gear, a 20 below sleeping bag, a bivy sack, some type of stove to boil water, some type of fuel to boil water, some type of pot to boil water, reflective gear, headlamps, blinking lights. So we are on a snowmobile trail, so we need to be safe and respectful of the snowmobilers.
While this race is normally in very cold conditions, this year is abnormally warm, and that's causing all sorts of new issues.
The trail is really rough, so it's rough for you, but it's also rough for the snowmobiles. So we will have snowmobile rescues, but they will not be patrolling as much as they have in the past.
Warm years, we usually deal with trench foot, and hopefully people are starting to figure that out, but not everybody does. This is by far the warmest Arrowhead we've ever had, the most unusual winter I've ever seen here in 38 years.
Just because it's not 20 below outside doesn't mean that the weather conditions cannot be very dangerous, okay? 36 and humid is perfect hypothermia conditions.
It's going to be tough going for you and tough going for us. If we see issues and we see that you're off trail, I'm going to send good thoughts and hope you get them. Really, I hope to see you all at the finish. I really do. Take your time. No records are going to get set this year, so we don't have to worry about that.
We give thanks for this event, these people gathered, and the adventure to come. May we all be safe in the coming days. Amen.
This is the 20th anniversary of the Arrowhead Ultra. The first year, I believe there's only like 5 racers. The first year I did it in 2007, there was less than 20 racers. So it certainly started as a grassroots kind of, hey, this is doable. Let's see if we can, finish this event. It's really bloomed and blossomed. You heard the race director say today that it actually crashed the website as soon as you could start registering. So it's definitely popular, and as people hear about it and it gets recognition for one of the tougher endurance races in the world, of course people want to challenge that. This year the weather's nice, so I think there'll be a lot of people that are confident that they're not going to get frostbite, but they're going to have a lot of challenging conditions because the snow is soft and they're going to not necessarily have a good surface to be on to either walk, run, or bike.
I'm going to thank you again for getting me into this horse crap.
This race is unique. You know, Minnesota isn't necessarily known for its hills, but through the course of the 135 miles, you have over 7,000 feet of elevation gain and about 7,000 down. I have done it 17, finished 16. I finished the most. I believe there's one other guy that's done it more times than me, and I think he's finished as many as me, John Storkamp, and he's on foot, so he does it a little harder than the biking. The people are real. They're pretty humble. There's not a lot of fanfare in this race, so it's not about the glory of it. And these people don't necessarily take a lot of credit for the work they put in to compete this type of event. They're quite humble.
I believe I've started it 12 or 13 times. Twice I've won it. When I won it on foot, I was leading most of the way, 3/4 of the way, and then Scott Hobart caught me at the last checkpoint, and we actually went in together, and we actually tied. There is no winner trophy. There is just a trophy for finishing. Yeah, they don't do any age groups or winner trophies or anything like that. So you only get your name first on the list is all you get.
Even finishing in the back of the pack is pretty cool.
10 years ago, I was a single speeder, still am, and I did a little research trying to find anybody that had ever single speeded Arrowhead, because that's what I wanted to do. And I found this guy named Judd and his brother Ted, and they had this gig going called Back of the Pack Racing. Next thing I know, one thing leads to another. We meet at Gateway on the Arrowhead Trail. They're dressed in plaid, wool outfits matching, and to me they were like superheroes.
Backpack racing, we started it back in like 2007, and we would go to single speed races, and our whole goal in that race was to beat Smoking Joe. We were always at the back of the pack, and thus we came up with the name Back of the Pack Racing. Dead last doesn't mean loser, because every now and then Smoking Joe would get us, and this guy, no joke, stopped on the race course to smoke, and we could barely keep up with him.
We became friends, and the rest is history. We've been on this trail. This is my 9th time. Judd's been here 11 times. So we don't change our gears because we don't have any gears. In fact, truth be told, derailleurs are the path of the devil. And so we just run a single speed.
The ones that are looking at, like, hey, look at me, I'm this big racer. They don't normally come back to this race because there's not enough publicity or fanfare for it. So I think it really is the people, and people like Lindsay Gold that are just ride for the pure, the passion. He was an Olympic cyclist, and the fact that he's still riding bike and still passionate about it means a lot to me because he's a role model.
It was challenging. I ended up just in the pack, but it was the one when the Israelis got attacked, and it set everything back, and even my race had an incident where these Irish guys, there was 2 Irish cycling federations, the one got to pick the Olympic team, the other sent a bunch of cycling commandos. They snuck onto the course and literally grabbed a hold of the official Irish riders and dragged them out of the race. And it caused a mass crash at the start that I was involved in. I was able to go on, but it just was this. I think that was maybe the first real politicizing of the Olympics, and it was it was challenging for everybody, for sure. My friend Charlie Farrow and I from Duluth, we've competed here for years together. He always beats me by one place quite often. But anyway, we're doing this, and we'd always talked about the old explorers from the early 1900s. And they all dressed in tweeds and wools and cotton anoraks and whatever. So we said, we're going to do it and dress like that. And so that's what we're doing. I'd like to tell you these are whalebone, but they're actually 3D printer. We'll be wearing those out there because it's actually good range of visibility. They really cut the glare.
There's 3 checkpoints. The first one is Gateway General Store. It's a convenience store. They are just wonderful. It's 38 miles into the race. We literally turned that place into a locker room on Monday. I mean, people are running around trying to get their clothes dried, buying, they have chili and drinks and pizza and hamburgers and whatnot. And the next checkpoint is our halfway checkpoint. That's Mel George's Resort.
Well, we're here at Mel George's on Elephant Lake. This is one of the checkpoints here, and the race has been going on for about 12 and a half, 13 hours. We've seen a few of the bikers come in already, but the race got real slow. The trail got real slow, so I think it's going to be a long night. We're going to hang out here for a while, see if we see any more racers come in. I'm sure they'll filter in throughout the night. In fact, here comes one now. Most racers use the facilities and resources available to them along the way. But there's a select group that go unsupported and decide to forego that advantage.
A normal racer goes into Gateway, hey, can I have a slice of pizza and a Gatorade and a couple hand warmers, and I'm going to use your bathroom and wash my hands. And unsupported racer, hey, I'm Krieger, number 147, I'm in and out, see ya. I get no water, no food, no warming up, no nothing. So it makes a very difficult race much tougher.
Well, the race has been going about 25, 26 hours now or so. We're here at Mel George's the next morning, and we've got some, in fact, here's another walker coming in right now. There has already been a finisher, so we're going to go see the rest of the course and make it to the finish line.
You actually cross the Laurentian Divide, I believe, 3 times in this race, so it really is one of the hillier sections of the state. So those are when the demons start talking to you, and you start to, your mind will play tricks, and you'd rather be anywhere but on that course. So
what happens is people get frustrated and they quit way too soon. What my advice would be, if you start to get really tired, throw your sleeping bag down, sleep for 4 or 5 hours, and then keep going.
Woody's still out there. We cried and we died. So we cried a lot for about 10 miles while we pushed our bikes through single-speed snow. I must have fallen over 20 times trying to get that first pedal on the single speed. 95% of it is mental. Yesterday, we just didn't do it. And we live with reality. And reality is, when the temperatures are above freezing and you're on single speed, it's a little bit tougher.
Luckily, there's someone willing to go get racers on the trail who aren't able to finish. And this race has been pretty good for his life, too.
So I've been running around here and checking on racers for 16 years now. So I actually just kind of patrol the trail, checking on all the racers, making sure that they don't have any physical issues. I just go out to make sure that they're able to continue on. And if they're not, then it's up to me to get them in safely. My wife, Carla. Carla is from Brazil. Carla came for the first time, I think 11 years ago. The first year she was here, we pulled her just north of Mel George's here. She was done. Second year again, she did finish, but it was too late. Third year, I had to pull her at 100 miles. And that's when we started talking, and within a couple of years after that, we actually got married.
Yeah, you're the last man standing.
Yep, they all bailed on me. Yeah, but everything's been great out here, dude. If everything was like this yesterday, it'd have been well, dude, I hit rain last night, had to put my gear on, stopped raining, took it off because I was warm, started pissing rain again, put it on, then it started snowing, dude, across Elephant Lake.
Yeah.
I was completely soaked.
Nice job, and good luck the rest of the way, and finish her up.
Puppies are having fun with the sticks.
That's right.
All right, man. Nice seeing you, dude.
Yeah, you bet, man.
All right.
Arrowhead is such a great event. I mean, the thing is, you meet people who you have these lifelong friendships with. There are people who, at 2 a.m., I don't see them any other time of the year, but we're there together. And we feel miserable, but it's great.
All right, we're here at Fortune Bay Casino, and the finish line for the Arrowhead Ultra 135 is right behind us. Checking the leaderboard here, or the tracker, we notice that Kenneth Landgraf from Winnipeg, Manitoba is about to cross the finish line. Let's go see how he's doing.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
How did it go?
Good. Very good.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We started doing it a long time ago, and we just kept doing it. It's just been really wonderful. It's a wonderful experience.
The person who finishes is going to be a very different person than the person who started. You can't not love the people that you're sharing the trail with.
I was struggling for a while, but good.
If you can just finish this thing, you're in good company.
Sarah Holger envisioned a world where every kid would spend time outdoors every day. The State Park Naturalist turned that dream into Project Get Outdoors, an after-school program she founded to connect Minnesota kids to nature.
We focus on where are kids in the after-school, out-of-school hours. So that might be libraries, YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, through City Park and Recs. We do work with school districts through like community education and school-age childcare. A lot of these kids that we're working with, they're not used to being out in the woods, being outside. So just kind of making sure we're providing good experiences, happy experiences, creating good memories in these nature spaces so that kids have a sense of like comfort outdoors, and they feel like safe and confident that they can go outside and play, and they don't have to be scared of things. Back in 2005, just serendipitously, I was introduced to Richard Louv's book, Last Child in the Woods, Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder. And I'm kind of an ADHD person, but this book was really speaking to me personally. And I was really emotionally moved by that book. So it really brought out the trends, the statistics of how much time kids are spending indoors versus outdoors, what's happening to them physically, mentally, spiritually, how that ripples through our communities when we don't have a connection to nature. And then I was trying to think, well, what can I do? Me, this tiny little person, what can I do in my community to make a difference? And I had been working seasonally for Minnesota State Parks as a naturalist, so I had like a connection to some of the state parks. And then I was also volunteering at a youth center in my community at the time. And I thought, well, let's bridge the two together and do kind of a nature-based, outdoor, just exploring nature spaces in the after-school setting. And so we founded this program in Plainview, Minnesota. It's in Wabasha County, small little farming community. There's a pretty strong Latino population in the Plainview community. It's a community with migrant workers that come and work at the canning factory, work on the local dairy farms. And so working with the Plainview Migrant Council, Lakeside Foods, even local law enforcement, we were able to kind of tap into that community. I kind of felt like a missionary almost, because we were literally going door to door and just sharing information about this program, and it's going to be free, and we'll come into the neighborhood and pick kids up, and parents are welcome to come with. And that's how we started. It was very successful. We had great participation.
Project Get Outdoors, experience, explore.
The news came out and covered some stories on it, and then other communities said, hey, this is great, how can we do this in Winona? How can we do this in St. Charles? How can we do this in Rochester? And so within a year, I kind of said, this looks like we maybe need to create some resources and maybe look at becoming an organization.
With help from a variety of partners, Project Go became a nonprofit and developed training materials and backpacks with items that organizations could use to run their own after-school program.
We've gotten funding 2 different times from LCCMR, which has been amazing. The first time was to create more backpacks and resources that different groups could check out and utilize. And the second time was to create a statewide training where we could take it to each region of Minnesota.
At a recent training for Southeast Minnesota leaders, Sarah revealed the contents of backpacks that can be used to inspire curiosity and creativity.
It's all about having fun. So like the backpacks that we provide, I tell people it's not rocket science, it's basic stuff. There's a ball, there's a rope, there's a ruler, there's balloons, there's chalk, there's all these bubbles, there's simple things that kids could find at home. But let's be creative on how we can use those to explore outdoors.
There is a ruler, I bring this up because you could do something where they got to measure things. Everybody has to find something that's certain size, or everybody collect leaves, measure your leaves, we're going to sort them by size. There's ways you can bring in math that's subtle, it makes it more fun, that they don't even realize they're counting and using numbers. There's a book that comes with the backpack specifically for how to use the resources in the backpack, just ideas, how to plan field trips and things like that. There's a cloud chart. There's a pop-up, this thing pops up as a little bug house you can put insects in. And then there's a little mini first aid kit in there. So there's a mix of things. And so part of the training is kind of practicing some of these simple activities that you could do with the backpack.
You can observe that children love being outside, but just to learn some of the science behind that and some of the medical science was really interesting.
In the process of play, we're learning all these amazing skills. For me, it was fort building. We built forts everywhere. And think of the engineering and design. Each fort we learned something from. Team building, problem solving, just innovation, creativity, all these things that come from it. And it doesn't have to be, jazzed up with, this is environmental education, this is the lesson plan we're using. It doesn't have to be that complicated, and that could scare some volunteers. Keep it simple. I've put out a few resources at the training we did today. One is the stick book. It has all these ideas of what you can do with sticks, right? In the National Toy Hall of Fame, the #1 rated toy is a stick, because you can turn that stick into thousands of different things outdoors.
In addition to backpacks for program leaders, Project Go has assembled activity trunks that can be checked out.
There's 6 or 7 different activity kits. Each region has a set of those. We have birding kits that have binoculars, and they have little stuffed birds that we hide out around the park or wherever the green space is. And they go and just look for birds, and there's some different activity ideas they can do with that, but the idea is let's just get outside and explore and focus on birds. There's an insect one, similar, it's got different insect nets, bug houses, magnifying glasses, there's books. Each of these has books on birds, on insects. There's a fishing one, so we have the fishing poles that they can use, but then there's also fish printing, where they're rubber fish, and you can paint them and make a print, and it's different fish of Minnesota. And then the Fish of Minnesota posters. There's geocaching with the GPS units. There's intro to camping, where they learn how to set up a tent. And then there's dry sack with all kinds of if you're camping, these are things you might use. And reiterating, you can do this in your own backyard too. You could camp in your backyard. You don't have to go to a national park to experience camping. But then having a conversation about what are other places where you could camp. And in that, we would actually do a mapping activity where we would create a community green space map and look at different types of spaces we have and what you can use them for.
Fun is really important. I mean, we're talking about, mental health and physical health and, earnest stuff about the planet, but fun and joy are behind all of that, and that's really what she tries to convey.
For a lot of kids, it really does change their lives in a really powerful, kind of transforming way. And nature's there. It's there for the rest of their lives. We had a little guy, I think it was kindergarten when he started. One of the teachers that had him, she approached me one day after school and she said, wow, this program's really making a difference, because this little guy was very timid, shy in the classroom, like usually didn't engage in like the classroom conversation. And she said after being in Project Go for a short time, he was raising his hand and he was connecting like what they were learning in the classroom to what we had done in Project Go. But that was how it made sense to him. He'd say, well, you know, Project Go, you know, we had this hike we did and we went to this, this cemetery and there was this tree, and he was connecting it totally to what they had been learning in class. And he wasn't afraid, like he was super excited to share. And so she said it was a total transformation in this kid. He was more confident and he was really understanding the concepts because he could relate it to something he had done.
Since 2005, Project Go has served more than 50,000 children at a variety of out-of-school programs across Minnesota.
At the training we had today, we had a representative from Hispanic Outreach of Goodhue County. We had somebody from the Winona Library. We had somebody from the Artist Sanctuary in Red Wing and somebody from the Frontenac State Parks Association. So interesting mix of organizations, right? Basic thing with Project Go is just comfort being outside. Once we're comfortable, then we can start to appreciate it, right? And when we have appreciation, then we want to take care of it.
Funding for Prairie Sportsman is provided by the Minnesota Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, as recommended by the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources. Mark and Margaret Yackel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farm, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota, on the web at shalomhillfarm.org. And by West Central Initiative and Western Minnesota Prairie Waters. And the members of Pioneer PBS.
Catch Prairie Sportsman on demand. Watch anytime at prairiesportsman.org on the free PBS app or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Prairie Sportsman. Don't miss an episode. Watch on demand today.